Welcome into a new In the Bag with Unk Adam, episode 8. And we are nearly 2 weeks into preseason camp. Unk, I got to ask, how are you holding up?
Man, I'm loving it. Everything is going well. I can't believe this is episode 8. This has flown by this off season, but now we're officially back in Boulder, and we'll be here all the way through getting Miss Peggy to a bowl game and beyond. So holding up good, man. Enjoying being back in Boulder, Colorado, and working out with the Buffs.
I love it. Walk us through your preseason camp day-by-day routine.
Wow, it's I have a blend. I have the coaches' calendars and the players' calendar, and so I'm here pretty early in the morning, and I'm here pretty late in the afternoon. I don't think anybody puts in the hours that Coach Prime puts in. He beats everybody here, and sometimes the last to leave. But we typically, get here about an hour before the team meeting. The team meeting is typically 7 a.m., and then you go into position meetings before going out on the field for an hour and a half practice, depending on what day it is. Then you have a lunch break, and that's when everybody goes to treatments. Come back around mid-afternoon for more position meetings. That's the players, and cap it off with a team meeting around 6 p.m. So easily a 12-hour day. But in the middle of that is when the coaches review film and make their notes for the next practice day. And so I sit in on a lot of those meetings. So 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. is pretty much nonstop.
Well, you've been putting out great content as a result of those hours you're putting in. What's your favorite part of the day?
The part of the day where you actually get to go, which is somewhere around 1:32 p.m.
Okay.
like right about now. But I tell you what, Adam, my favorite part of it is really in phases. I love Coach Prime's morning talk to the team. I love when we're out there on the field and either he gives another message or calls on one of the players to do it. Those two are always the highlight of the day because you never know what's coming. Coach Prime, of course, kind of walks in with a message that's just on his spirit, and then you never know which players he's going to call on, to break them down in the huddle. So I love the excitement and the energy build for that. But there's nothing like when the day is done. That really is the cherry on top.
There you go. At Sco Buffs Nation on X asked, who has been the biggest surprise of camp so far? Love your work, Adam and Unk. Biggest
Oh wow,
surprise of camp so far.
the biggest. It's hard to say that because surprise means I didn't see it coming. And I saw that the offensive line was going to be better. I saw that this defensive line was going to be better. I would tell you, surprise wise, I didn't have an true appreciation for the depth and the talent that we have in the linebacker room now. Those guys are so interchangeable out there with Trevor Woods even moving from safety to linebacker, and of course Bentley and the Jeremiah Browns being there. The Westers coming in. It is a very deep and talented linebacker room. I think Coach Hart sleeps well at night and has some job security. So if I had to pick a quote unquote surprise, it would be the depth and the talent that we have at linebacker.
Like it. At Prime Tanaka on X asked, how is the QB2 race shaking up? What have you seen out of that group with Ryan Staub and even Dominic Ponder, who's come in Destin Wade and Walter Taylor?
Yeah, I think we still are where we were at the conclusion of the spring game. Everyone knows who QB1 is. That's Shedeur Sanders. I don't think Ryan Staub at QB2 has lost a step or that others have gained on him exponentially with just 2 weeks into camp now. We'll see how much that changes the next 2 weeks. But I think you're pretty solid, with Shedeur Sanders at QB1 and just as solid at Ryan Staub at QB2.
And Ponder came in as a walk-on. Is he a guy that stood out at all? What are kind of your impressions of him?
Yeah, he's definitely stood out. But it's one of those things where the best ability is availability, and Ryan Staub has been available and been here during the spring and knows the offense and has a command of it and experience playing in it when the 2 games that Shedeur had to sit out. So he is just clearly, from an experience standpoint, a confidence standpoint, he has the upper hand. 2 weeks of camp left, man. People are going to start jockeying and fighting for positions harder. But I think right now, Ryan Staub is your QB2.
I mentioned with Chico the other day that you got to keep in mind Ryan Staub is going against the first team defense on a regular basis,
Absolutely.
and that needs to kind of be factored into everything, right? Because that is a challenge that he faces every day, especially when you talk about the improved defense that we've seen this preseason.
Oh, absolutely. This defense is much better than it was last year. And Ryan Staub is facing the one. So, he's looking over there to his left and he sees Travis Hunter. He's looking in the middle and he's going to see Shiloh or Cameron Silman Craig. And who he's been losing Trevor Woods. And Trevor Woods has been able to pick him off a couple times in camp, but that's only helping him grow and develop. And so hopefully when we have these big third and fourth quarter leads and Ryan Staub gets in there, we not only maintain the lead, but we add to it because he is facing a starting defense in the Big 12, a defense that is going to be better than much of the other defenses he'll be facing. So iron is sharpening iron around here. I like the experience that Staub is gaining in practice.
JAB 2218 on buffstampede.com asked, besides the quarterback room, which position groups have emerged during camp to become the strengths of the team?
I'm gonna have to go with running backs, and
Okay.
it's not just because of the way the question was framed, but I have to look at the totality of what that room has been through this calendar year. When you look
Mm-hmm.
at the talent that was in that room in January and February and March, and then you look at the vacuum, the sucking sound that happened in March and April and May, and everybody was running around with their head on fire, saying, "What is Coach Flea doing? What is Coach Prime going to do?" And you fast forward 60 days, and now everybody is celebrating and forgot, all about those times because they knew what they had coming and they had the confidence that this room is going to be all right. And you look at what Charlie Offerdahl brings, moving up from walk on to scholarship. You look at the true freshman Micah. You look at Dallin Hayden transferred in, the hood. This room is deep with talent. Now you just got to figure out these next 2 weeks of camp, who's going to be situationally best for down and distance, and then who's going to really be the bell cow of the offense. I will tell you that coming after that spring game and moving up to a scholarship player, you're still seeing Charlie Offerdahl out there running with the one. So right now, he's getting those RB1 reps, but those other guys in the room, they're chomping at the bit. So I'm going to go with the running back room.
I feel like cornerback has got to be a strength of this team, right? Too, when you kind of compare it to where it was a year ago in the talent you brought in there. Now you're not trying to figure out who that second corner is. You're trying to figure out who's not going to be that second corner, right? Because there's so much competition there. Receiver is super depth. Obviously, that's a strength on this football team. What about the defensive line? It feels like that has gone from an area on this team that was it was fine at times last year, but wasn't necessarily considered like a strength if you compare it to a lot of other power conference programs. But I feel like this fall, with the fact that you can really rotate all of those scholarship guys on the roster, I mean, you can go 8, 9 deep with that group.
Yeah, Adam, again, you nailed it, buddy. The reason I answer running backs is because the way the question was framed and the way the running back room went from 7 to 0 and then back up to 7. But absent of that
Yeah.
happening, it could easily be the cornerbacks because you have so much talent there now that you're able to do creative things and move people around because you're not worried about a deficiency from one guy or not. And I think you could say the same thing clearly for the wide receivers. So much talent there that you can hit them with anything you want situationally. But for me, I would go with that defensive line had I not said the running backs because of what they were able to rebuild. I think the defensive line is now built to one, stop the run, two, get to the quarterback, as in playing ball on their side of the line of scrimmage, and more importantly, not give up those disastrous big runs that we were doing last year. So this is a revamped defensive line from a talent and depth perspective. When you look at the command of the room that Damian Lewis has as the D-line coach, you look at Warren Sapp helping him out, Dancy coming up from analyst to now coaching the ends. And one thing they're doing differently, Adam, and to those out there listening, is this time a year ago, you may have had the D-line and the edge rushers in separate rooms. They're all in the same room now with three
Yeah.
coaches in the room. You got everybody piled up in one room. We don't get a lot of footage to y'all because it's so damn jam-packed in there. I can't fit. So we got to get a smaller guy to go in there and cover. But when you look at the three coaches that are in that room and now everybody that rushes the quarterback and stops the run in the same room at the same time, people are going to be surprised and impressed at how often we play ball on the other side of the line of scrimmage this year.
The only thing that I've reported on from those open photo windows that we've had, and I felt like I wasn't going to get in trouble by saying this because it's a positive for the program, is that I've never seen a defensive line and edge group work closer together than what you see with what Colorado, and you mentioned that too, with the fact that they're meeting as a full group this year. And yeah, you've got a lot of coaching talent in that room. I see you mulling around there during those photo windows. Like it seems like you're pretty intrigued by that group as
Yeah,
well.
but Adam, like that's the punchline. You know, all the other groups, there's a place for me to sit in the position room and cover them. The defensive line room now merged with the edge rushers. Like you can't fit, man. You got to get a shoehorn. These guys are big. The room is small. I'm big. The only way I get to cover them is on the practice field. So you're right. When you guys come out there and we have those media openings, you see me spending a lot of time with the D linemen because that's my opportunity to see what the coaches are doing, learn how they're coaching, how the players reacted, because there's no room in the film room, man. You don't fit.
That's going to be a fun room though, if you can fit in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, when you sit outside the door and just listen, like it's the best show in town.
Sissio Amer 65574 on X asked, what milestones must the Buffs accomplish to establish the 2024 season was a success? What are you looking for?
Man, the first thing we got to do is we got to exceed 4 wins. You know, because let me tell you what's going to happen, Adam. We're going to come out the gate and we're going to win some games. And every time we win a game, somebody's going to say, yeah, but. And that yeah, but is going to be, we saw what happened last year. You know, you got hot and then fizzled out. I don't think that the naysayers are going to start to clam up until we get the wins 4, 5, 6, and 7. Because as we go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those are, you know, and oh, they're going to still be saying, yeah, but. We saw this same show last year where you go into TCU and you're a major underdog and you get out able to win. We saw what you did to Nebraska. We saw the Colorado State game, the in-state rival. We've seen this movie before. So I think what this team is going to have to do is going to have to go through, you know, that glass ceiling, if you will, of 4 wins and then really still be dominant and wins 5, 6, and 7 before people really recognize and want to say, okay, it's rebuilt, it's better. These guys can actually make it to the Big 12 championship.
My first thought when I saw this question was we got to get Peggy to a bowl game. That is the goal. And so 6 wins minimum. I think to really fully shut up those haters for the entire season, maybe that number might be 8 wins just
I'm with
from
you.
yeah, you go from 1-11 before Coach Prime gets there, 4-8, and you turn those close wins in close losses into wins. And 8 seems to be pretty attainable. I think if they go 8-4 in year 2, anybody that's still hating at that point is just, I mean, they can that will probably persist. I don't ever want to expect a day in which Colorado is not getting hate right now, but that number seems like one that it's easy to kind of just push those people aside.
You know, Adam, hate is one of those illnesses where you got to want to get better. You know, sometimes you can have a common cold or a virus and you can take the medicine. And even if you don't want to feel better, the medicine is going to make you feel better. Where when you're hating on the Buffs and we get to 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, and you're still hating, you just want to be a sick person. Like, because there's nothing
Yeah.
else to hate on. Like you just articulated, you go from 1 to 4, and if you double that 4 to 8, which is a realistic thing, this is not a pie in the sky. When you look at the way the Big 12 schedule is set up this year, when you look at the way the bye weeks are advantageous because they're spread at about equal balance, one of the things I don't necessarily like for the schedule, but there's probably no way around it, is we don't have back-to-back home games. You know, you got that Colorado State game, which is, you know, just around the corner, but you're pretty much home and gone, and you got to get into that rhythm of it, and you got to make sure you really rest and heal up during those bye weeks, because when you get to the end of the schedule, and you got Utah coming here and an Oregon State and that kind of thing. I'm sorry, not Oregon State, Oklahoma State. Those last games could be the games that are put you on the bubble for in the Big 12 championship in Dallas or out of it. But what you should have done by then is certainly secured 6 to 7 wins. So bowl game is certainly in play.
Yeah. And going into November, if those games are meaningful, that again is what you're aspiring for as a Colorado program right now. Buffs Econ on Buff Stampede asked, who starts on the offensive line and who are the primary backups?
So, let me reverse engineer my answer to that. I think we're at a place in college football, particularly in the Big 12, but specifically in Colorado, that you're going to see throughout the season 8 to 10 people play on this offensive line. I think when you look at the 12-week schedule, 17-week schedule when you're playing for the national championship, which is our goal and focus, there's no way you can just rely on 5 or 6 people to get you through that. So I don't get a lot of caught up in who starts, because when you get mid-season all the way to the end of the season and you start looking at the number of snaps, you're going to have about 10 guys with almost an equal number of snaps. Having said that, I think Coach Phil Loadholt has a pretty good idea of which 5 he's looking at or counting on, but I still think it's up in the air with 2 weeks of camp left as to where they're play. We've only been in camp 2 weeks, and I've seen Tyler Brown play every position except center. He has moved, across the line. I've seen Khalil Benson, bump one spot in. I've seen changes at center. I think what Phil Loadholt is looking for right now is I have the talent. Now let me see which 5 sing and dance the best together, and that's what he's searching for. But I think that you can expect, Mayer, Benson, Jordan Seaton, Brown, Zelinkas. I think there's just some key names that are going to be there. When you start getting to 6 and 7, whether it's Kareem or whoever it is, who knows? But they're putting these guys through the mix pretty tough right now and hitting them with the fire because they want to know who they can count on and trust. But I couldn't sit here today, Adam, and tell you these are the 5 and that's what it's going to be, because it is very much an open competition, but you have depth and talent, unlike last year where you just had to go with the 5 you had.
Yeah. At Steve Bryce 2020 on X asked, who does Unk believe Shiloh and Silman Craig's backups at safety will be?
Man, it's almost like the offensive line. I think that you're going to have a lot of interchangeable parts out there. I think it's going to be week to week, meaning matchup based. But what does that our opponent bring to the table that we want to negate? I think you're going to have more Cameron and Shiloh than you have of anybody else. But Preston Hodge is going to roll over there. I still would be surprised if there are times when Trevor Woods drops back and still plays some safety, because of his high IQ and ball hawking ability. So I think Sean, I think that Rob Livingston, who coaches the overall defense, but particularly safeties, he's got a lot of talent in his room, and because he's the architect of the defense, he knows who situationally should be out there. One of the challenges is going to be with having a guy with the green dot and his helmet is mic'd up. When you start moving all these people around, there are going to be times you got to go back to the hand signals and eyes to the sideline, because you're not going to have the time to switch helmets every time you want to change the pieces.
Is Savion Riley kind of cross training, or is he more a cornerback at this point?
I've excellent question, Adam. I've not only seen him cross train as safety, I've seen him successfully do it. So now y'all don't panic when I tell you Shador threw an interception, because it was a free play. The defensive line jumped off sides, and he knew that this is one I can gamble on. But he tried to go front pylon to Travis Hunter, and Savion was in the middle of the end zone and broke on the ball like Travis did at TCU and got a pick and took it up the sideline. He can certainly play safety.
You like to hear that if you're a Colorado fan. Philly Buffalo on Buff Stampede asked, has anybody emerged behind Sam Hart at tight end?
Sam looks great, man. Stride. I've seen him, make some nice catches, but it's what he does with the ball after the catch has been very impressive. And so for me to say someone can gain on him, I first have to let people know how damn good he is. Like from a body type, as far as his length and his speed, he is an additional receiver out there on the field. Now what Coach Prime is looking for is for some toughness at tight end, because we need somebody else who can stay back there and block and not just go out for a pass, because we have enough wide receivers. So I think the key to overcoming Sam Hart will be one of these guys really stepping up their pass protection game and their run blocking game. And that's going to make the difference, because I don't know if someone can catch him from a receiving ability and yards after the catch ability. So the key to catching him is on what you do in pass protection and run blocking.
Is he the most kind of overall well put together tight end in terms of the blocking game, the passing game that you've seen at Colorado since Coach Prime got
You
there?
know, the short answer to that is absolutely yes. But I have to remind the fans that last year we had a walk-on wide receiver that we moved to tight end, and so there's not really a lot of depth to compare to. But Sam Hart looks good, man. Again, when he catches the ball and he has that long stride, I mean, he's getting like one step maybe every 5 yards or so, and he can get on down the field with that ball. Love the way his mechanics are out there. His hands, his hand-eye coordination, his relationship with Shador already. So he's certainly the best thing that we've had in here since I've been with Colorado.
Yeah, and that was definitely not a shot at Mikey Harrison. When I think back to him, even though he was listed as a tight end, he never really played the traditional tight end
No,
role
not
on
at
a
all. And
consistent
man, and
basis.
look, certainly not a shot at Mikey. Like, we still got love for Mikey. For him to be a smaller wide receiver, not even a big body guy, and to be able to play tight end here and got us out of some crucial games. There were some games we wouldn't have won, without his contribution to the tight end spot. But he was not a stereotypical prototype tight end. He was a wide receiver just playing there. So you gave up a lot in your blocking scheme by having them there. I think with Sam Hart, Sam can block, and the guys that are behind Sam can block. And you better believe Coach Brett Bartolone is going to get the best out of him, because he understands, offense. He's from that Mike Leach coaching tree. He understands, what a tight end can add to an offense. Pat Shermer understands that as well. So that's not a position, just because we're so deep at receiver, we're overlooking. The tight end will play a role in this offense.
We've got some fun non-topic questions here, but a couple more CU football questions. This one from Cheyenne DeBuff on buffstampede.com. He asked, are there any sleepers who you think could be all Big 12 candidates this season? So he's asking about sleepers. Obviously, that doesn't include Shador, Travis,
Sure.
BJ Green got some preseason recognition. I think even LeJohntay and Will Shepherd, you probably throw into that wouldn't be necessarily in that sleeper category. Do you have guys beyond that you think could maybe be in that discussion once things are all said
Certainly,
and
we
done?
just talked about one. We Sam Hart, their tight end, could be in
Okay.
that discussion. Because this time a year ago, Adam, we didn't know, how much last year's tight end was going to touch the ball. Who saw that coming? And so we're so deep at receiver that it would be a sleeper for Hart to get enough receptions, yards, and touchdowns to get some postseason awards. I think you could say the same thing for some of the other linebackers who could emerge and have big games. Jeremiah Brown is able to get to the quarterback and is able to go out and cover guys in the slot for short yardage situations. Levante Bentley, hell of a run stopper with his body and frame and his football IQ. I think you have a list of guys on the defensive line that were uncertain or unknowns in what we're going to be doing here with this revamped defensive line. So you could see a lot of names at the end of this season from Colorado with conference honors.
I was thinking too that, from a national scope, if Preston Hodge wins all conference honors, that might be kind of a sleeper pick. Justin Mayers, Deion Hayes, guys that are expected to have really big roles that are going to become more household names. And I think that's why those guys, Hodge, Mayers, and Hayes, transferred to Colorado in the first place, was to get that exposure and to get this platform. So those are some other guys I kind of have my eye on as far as all conference candidates.
I think you got a good eye, and I think that's good rationale. These guys transferred here for opportunity, not only opportunity to play, make an impact, get to a big bowl game, but the opportunity to be seen. And I think that whereas they may not be household names right now, by the time you get to week 3 And by the time we get into that, say, second or third conference game, people are going to go, they're going to know Hayes. They're going to know BJ Green. They're going to be talking about one of these linebackers because they would now have enough game impact that people are going to notice you.
At Nebraska Buffs on X asked, oh, here we go. All right, Neely, buckle up. His question was, at what point does coach in the university start pushing back legally against journalists who want to write false hit pieces on the team and Coach Prime? I don't know if you can answer this. I'm worried though that like if you're going to make that move, it's going to get caught up in the courts. It's going to have now you go from Athlon Sports to like everybody's covering this story. Maybe it just doesn't make sense to do that and hope that it kind of washes out. I don't know. Neely, on the front lines, we've been discrediting this writer. He's, I mean, if you want to call him a writer. So that's my take on it. What are your thoughts?
I think your take, in history and in the short term is correct. I do not want to speak on behalf of the university, but I can share some of the conversations that I have with Coach Prime. And he has thick skin. He is used to it. He has been in the spotlight since 1987 nonstop every year since then. But what has crossed the line for him is when people make these clickbait stories and these attack-based stories and they put it on the kids. That's one of the things that he just has no patience for. And so I think you will start to see some legal pushback the more and more they keep lying on kids. He's a big boy and he just shrugs and walks off when they lie on him. But when you start putting the players in these stories and alleging things that happened to them that were not in their, mental health or physical health best interest, I think the only way to push back with that is to send a message to the courts. So you could say that happened. But I think you're also
Okay.
exactly right, Adam, that sometimes fighting back gives the story more attention than it would have had in the first place. Some of these accounts are coming from people with 15 followers and that kind of thing. And they have no basis. They're doing interviews and everything is off the record and they're not naming sources. And then they don't make an attempt to get a rebuttal from the other side. It's just not journalism. And I think we got to start doing as fans and we got to start doing this as people who know better is we got to stop sharing it. We got to stop doing their work for them. The algorithm out there, the all-powerful algorithm doesn't know a positive share from a negative share. It just knows engagement and that you clicked it and you sent it to the next person. And that's how people make money. And as long as they keep making more money with lies than they make with the truth, we're encouraging them to keep telling lies.
Yeah, that's the way I felt when I saw that story over the weekend and driving down to practice on Monday. It was like, I don't even think I'm going to give this the light of day. But then, a couple players get asked about it. And then I started talking to Brian after practice and it was like, we can't bury our heads in the sand on this one. But I agree with you most of the time. Just ignoring it is probably the best course of action. But at the same time, then you have this guy go on, a national TV show, and then it becomes really tough to just not address it. And then you start to let like your feelings really come out of how BS a lot of this stuff is. So it is tricky to cover some of these stories that have come out. But yeah, maybe if there is some pushback in the courts, then at some point maybe folks are a little bit more reticent to like actually have their sources lined up and not do the clickbait stuff anymore. But it's a pretty complicated topic.
Yeah, it is. It's complicated, and Deion Sanders is an economy, a macro and a micro economy, and so things are going to happen like this because there's so much money surrounding it, and it's going to continue to happen. But when you start lying on and attacking kids and their future reputation and their current status, I think that's when the father figure and the head coach in Deion Sanders, begins to get his breaking point on it. And I also like to add this, Adam, to the listeners out there. Here's a guy that you have seen video evidence of putting people out of meetings for phones and putting people out of
Right.
practice because a sock height was not the same as the rest of his unit. Attention to detail all across the board. If you think that there's Grand Theft Auto level guns, gambling, and fights happening in the same building that a phone can't ring in, well, that's just shame on you for believing it. The atmosphere around here, the cameras that are around here, and not just the media cameras like myself that are allowed on the inside, the cameras just in the building from the security of a state public university. Where is the evidence that any of this has taken place? There is none. But we also have evidence of rules being enforced. We have plenty of that. So, the absence just leads me to believe when you give me a guy that you won't quote the player who said it, you can't give me a time and date that it took place, you have no tangible evidence that it took place, but I have all the other evidence of the correct things being done. Well, you see which side the facts and the truth are going to fall on.
I couldn't count the number of times on both hands and my feet that prior to Coach Prime coming in, I would get a DM from a player that transferred out of Colorado's program, and they would have this or that to say, and I would vet that pretty thoroughly and really never end up having anything to report because it did 9 times out of 10 prove to just be flat out sour grapes.
Yep.
And you're just never really going to be able to avoid that when you're building through the transfer portal. It just is not going to work out for some guys. And so, yeah, that's not journalism to get somebody sour grapes and run with it that way. So we'll move along here. The next question comes from Dude, We Were Never Better, coming via Buff Stampede. He asked, which chef prepared meal is least appreciated by the players? And how often does Neely eat that meal? Why do players like Jordan Seaton eat fish for breakfast? And what species of fish is served? We're getting deep into the nutrition content here on this mailbag. Least appreciated when you walk down that line, is there one area of food that just doesn't get that much attention?
No, because even the salad bar over to the side, even the pasta station in the back, the rear of the cafeteria is all getting love. I don't think there's a least favorite, thing at all. Because by the time dinner service is over, breakfast service or lunch service is over, it ain't too much left. So I don't think there's an issue with least favorites. These players love some Chef Carl Solomon in the dishes he prepares, and when you look at what you see a Jordan Seaton eating, it's because the chef has the flexibility with his staff that there are certain dietary needs or nutrition goals or weight goals that players want to hit or maintain, and they're able to get something specific tailored to them. Not to mention players who have a shellfish allergy, like a Khalil Benson, who, when we have something shellfish that day, his meals are prepared totally away from that counter, separately in the back. So I don't think you're going to get a least thing out of these players of what they don't like. They love all the Chef Carl Solomon does for them.
Khalil Benson even wants to fight shellfish, huh? That he's been the kind of the talk of preseason. It's funny listening to defensive players. They say Khalil wants to fight every play, but I love the guy. That's a pretty unique ability as a personality to have both of those.
Yeah, he's certainly a leader, man. He's a leader on the offense. He's a leader to the defense line that he's going against. He's a leader to the team. More days than not, either he or Cameron Silman Craig are the first people sitting down in the team meeting room. And that ain't just for show. That's just them. They are pros. They lead by example. When they see someone else not following suit, they don't mind calling them out. And so people know that when Khalil Benson is quote unquote trying to fight you out there, he's doing it to make you a better player, not doing it to pick on you. And he loves when he gets it back. So it's not bully ball or something. He wants to give these guys at practice everything that Nebraska or UCF or Utah is going to give them. That way, by the time you get to those games, it's nothing to you. So they're out there chirping each other. They're out there maybe with a little extracurricular after the whistle, but it ain't done in hate or to injure. It's done in, we got to get each other tough. Iron sharpens iron. And Khalil Benson is the tip of that spear, man. He is a dog out there.
Just to finish out that last question, is there a typical type of fish that is served often by Chef Solomon?
Uh, there's like black and catfish, redfish, salmon is served a lot. You're not gonna, get the tilapias a lot around here. It's normally some nice quality fish and just different things are done with it. I have absolutely fallen in love with Chef Carl Solomon's black and catfish and grits. It just reminds me of Mississippi, man.
That's awesome. Rob_O on Buff Stampede asked, who is the EA Sports College Football champ on the team? Has that been determined yet?
When the game first dropped, there was a lot of competitive talk around here and a lot of guys playing. But as we got into the start of fall camp, let me tell y'all this, these guys are tired. So that bravado about who can be who at the game when you can be taking a nap or sleep, that's something that they do on their own time. You don't hear a lot of that anymore, like you did when the game first came out. So I haven't been around them enough playing the game to know who is the best, yet truly the best. I'm online and have played a couple of players, when I'm at home in the evening. So it's a good, fun thing to do. But there's not really a lot of, hey, let's stop what we're doing right now. These guys are in the playbook and trying to learn that install.
After playing that game for a while, when you were back home in Mississippi and then came back out here, who was the first guy you came up to and talked about kind of their attributes on the game?
I tell you, the first guy I had to talk to about it was actually an apology. I went up to Sam Hart and I told him, I said, man, I don't know why I wait to 3rd and 6 or 4th and 3 to get you the ball. You are the most reliable receiver on Colorado's team in EA College Football 25, but I only throw to you when I just got to have it because I know you're going to damn get it. So a couple of days go by, and I put my phone down and press play on a video. Is where I threw to him on 1st down, and it was like for a 36-yard play. And I say, I just wanted to prove to you I learned my lesson. I'm not going to wait till I'm under duress to go to the tight end. I'm working you two in the same offense as Shepard and Hunter and Wester and Jimmy Horn. There's no more you're just, oh, when I got to have it, guy. I'm treating you like at the start that you are, Sam.
Do you play defense on the game or are you just going offense?
Oh, no, I'm both of them.
Who are you trying to control on defense usually?
Always Hayes, man. He
Okay.
Hayes is going to get you a sack. Quincy is going to get you a sack, and Chidozie is going to typically get some pressure back there, tackle for a loss. But I'm normally coming with Hayes off that edge back there.
I like it. At L_Rod on X asked non-football question. I'd like to know Adam and Unk's most favorite thing about Colorado summers. Do you have a favorite thing
My
about Colorado summers?
my favorite thing about Colorado summers is that it does not have the humidity of Mississippi summers. Colorado, I tell everybody back home that this is like top secret G17 government. Like maybe there's a bubble around it and people can't get to experience it. But when you get here, you don't want to leave because it is so pleasant that it makes up for any bad day you may have had during the winter. Let me tell y'all, the winters ain't bad. I was expecting the worst, and the winters are just not bad at all. But when you get to those May through August temperatures, it makes anything you experience in February worth it. The most pleasurable summers I've ever experienced here in Colorado.
I think every person that I ran into when on Coach Prime staff, when you guys arrived, that was one of the most brutal winters, that first winter going into 2023. And I kept telling everybody that I could come into, like, don't let this scare you off. This is not a typical winter here. This past winter was a little bit more pleasant as a result, in more typical fashion for Colorado. In terms of the summers, I came here from Phoenix and I sweat a lot. So like
Yeah.
7 months out of the year, it's just miserable. You get in your car, by the time that AC kicks on, you've already got kind of that seatbelt sweat going. And it's not humid like it is in Mississippi, but coming out here, I just love the fact that even if it's a hot summer day, the mornings are going to be beautiful. And the second that sun goes down, that you're going to want to be outside just for a little break. And you never get that in Phoenix. I mean, it'd be 105 degrees at like 2 in the morning. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed that, even though it was going to be hot at times in the summer, you were always going to have that reprieve that a lot of places just don't get that. It consistently stays pretty hot throughout the summer. And here you get kind of that break each day.
Yeah, I was about to say that, Adam, that to anybody out there who doesn't like the current temperature in Boulder, just wait a couple of hours because you're going to go from 30 degrees to 70 degrees from breakfast to lunch. You just have to dress in layers and it's all going to be nice weather. You just have to understand the temperature is going to change throughout the day. But when I got here, Adam, that first winter that you're talking about,
Yeah.
some 18 months ago, I brought my big coat. my boots, something I rarely get to use in Mississippi, maybe once every 3 years, have yet to use it here. It's my boots are in the equipment room in the same place they were when I arrived. Hadn't had to put them on one time because I was overthinking it. And then everybody was saying, "Oh, that was the worst winter we've had in 30 years," and it wasn't bad. Like if that's the worst in 30 years, bring it on.
This is a fun one to close out here. At Steve Bryce 2020 on X asked, if you were both shipwrecked on an island, what are the three things you would have to have? I'll let you lead off here.
Do I get to say another boat?
Yeah, I was kind of curious because there's a lot of ways you could go with this, right? Is this like you get three things and that's it? Or is it like a non-limited supply where like things get dropped by plane every day for you? Or yeah, I think the first thing would be like a good radio, right? To get out of there. But I don't know if Athlon keeps putting out these hit pieces. I might just want to go to an island and stay there for a while.
Well,
What do you
I'll play along with the fun side instead of the necessity side, and
okay.
say that I'm gonna need some peanut M&Ms because that's my favorite snack.
Okay.
And I'm gonna need my girlfriend and Chef Carl Solomon to cook for us. So I can make it with those
Okay.
three things.
That's good. I like you kind of just you hand off some of the cooking responsibilities on this island, so you bring some people with you. I like that.
I handed off all of it.
I love it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I went a little bit more hardcore on this. I was thinking first thing fishing harpoon. If you're going to be on an island, that's going to bring you in some food, a big ass pot. You got to be able to cook your food. You got to be able to sterilize water, and I don't know, a bed. I was thinking back to the movie with Tom Hanks, Castaway,
Yeah.
where he's kind of sitting there every night in his little cave and he's looking at his wife's photo. Man, just a nice bed in there. Like you can sleep like 12 hours a day if you've got nothing else to do. So you head out in the morning, you get your fish, you cook it up and just kind of hang out in your bed all day, I guess. But no, if it was something that was going to be dropped down from the sky, I'm thinking like breakfast burritos and water. And yeah, I mean, I got to bring my wife, I guess, if we can bring people here. So maybe,
Yeah.
maybe
See the reason I want to bring people is hopefully they get three things too, and we end up with nine things.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, so I'm going fishing harpoon, a big pot, and my wife. And we'll figure out the bed situation later. But yeah, no, that's a good question. Media day is tomorrow at Colorado. What does that look like for you?
I do mostly the inside, behind the scenes of media day. We'll be following Coach Prime as he does his interviews and the list of players. There are going to be some main stage players, if you will, but there's some other players who'll be working the room and working the circuit. So just kind of spot checking on them because we help them with their media training and their coverage for their own YouTube channels or promotion on social media. So the Pregame Show Network won't necessarily be sitting down conducting interviews. I'll just be going around with coaches and players as they do theirs.
Yeah, you have to kind of wear a lot of different hats in the building, right? Because I saw with the initial meeting that Coach Prime was talking to you and Curtis about like get these guys ready to talk to the meeting. What does that
Yeah.
look like for you? That process.
It's a fun experience. It's one of those things that I don't want to say force, so don't take that word literally. For some of the players that we know, are going to be requested for interviews, we make sure we sit down with them and help them through any uncomfortable situations of discomfort they may have in dealing with the media. And then what I do is, along with Curtis as well, I will talk to position coaches about players that they think are emerging and I start helping them get ready before the day comes. Because you look at last year, Omarion Miller, who when he had that great game, when you talk to the coaches last year, they knew that was possible, and so we would already be having some media training with Omarion. So when this does happen, you're kind of ready for it. So you see that same thing happening this year, that you're looking at the leaders that are identifiable, and you look at those emerging leaders, and you let them know that, hey, when you're being interviewed, The interview is yours. It's not the networks or the reporters. It's your interview. And if you have an uncomfortable question that you don't want to answer, no comment is an answer. You rather refer that back to your coach is an answer. You don't have to get trapped or baited into things. Talk about the things that you're comfortable talking about. And when someone is making you uncomfortable, you don't have to do that interview. Like, we let them know that they have the power in these situations. A lot of times young people, will err on the side of being extra respectful and just doing their due diligence and stand there and take unnecessary things from clickbait kind of people. But I will say, when it comes to media day, Curtis and his staff do a great job in vetting who's actually in here and doing this kind of thing. So you're not running into the Athlons of the world or whoever's, sneaking in and trying to do some negative stories. Media day is pretty much, feel good, wrap your arms around the program, framing the narrative for the season. So I look forward to it, man. And I love that media training portion of it and being able to help these student athletes with that.
Well, I'm looking forward to media day as well. We went a little bit longer on this mailbag show. We got some good questions in there. A lot of questions I couldn't even get to here. So we'll have to schedule another in the bag with Unk Adam soon. It was a long-awaited reunion here in terms of being able to get out there and answer some questions. You're in the thick of it right now, so I appreciate you, Neely, for taking this time out during a very busy time of the year for you.
Not a problem at all, man. And now that I'm back here, we'll have to do some in the bags with Unk Adam in person.
That would be nice. We'll definitely plan that. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody out there for tuning in.